I got a new pair of shoes. I got the new Hoka Speedgoat 4s, and it's too early to really pin down my opinion, but right now I'm liking them. So I had to replace my Altra Timp 1.5s. I did a day hike last weekend. It was about 13-ish miles. And by the end of it, everything south of my knees was just killing me. Those Timps, the cushion in them had completely flattened out, and Altra is sort of known for their zero drop. That's kind of their thing. And the zero drop, though, just did not work for me. I love the wide toe box, but that zero drop really left me with some pain in my calves, and if I had a particularly rough day with them, then I would also have some pain in my heels, and it was just from the Achilles being pulled in a way that is not normal for me. So the bottom line opinion of mine for the Altra is that they're really good shoes, but they just didn't work for me and my anatomy and how I walk and all of that. So I went shopping for some new trail runners, and I already have a pair of Hoka 1-1 just running shoes, and I really like those. So I thought I'll give the Hoka trail runners a shot, and my preliminary view, without having a lot of miles on them, is that I really like these. They have the cushion that you expect out of a Hoka, but it doesn't have that springy, bouncy house feel in them, and the tread on them is, for a trail runner, is pretty aggressive. So right now I'm liking the Hokas. Brad, what is your favorite shoe that you've hiked in?
Well, I've got the Ultras. I've always, this is my second pair of Olympus Ultras. So the Olympus has probably some of the highest stack on them, meaning that the cushion is extremely high and feels very comfortable. But like you said, that Ultras have the zero drop, and some people, it just doesn't work for them. I haven't had any issues, though I was warned that you could transition and to have some issues, but so far no issues. Now the Olympus have so much cushion. I think they're kind of comparable to the Hokas in the cushion. Then below that is the Timps that have the stack is a little bit less, and then below that is the Lone Peaks that a lot of people use. The Lone Peaks just felt like tennis shoes to me. The Timps, I think, are somewhere in the middle, and the Olympus 4 has now lowered their stack. I can't remember if it's 23 or 26, the stack number, but it's not as much as it used to be. I have the 3.5. I've seen people that have the new 4.0s, and everybody seems to like them. But like you said, it's just a matter, do you like that zero drop? So essentially that zero drop is you have zero elevation from heel to toe. It's just a straight shot, no elevation, and you just gotta get used to it, or maybe your body doesn't work that way.
And
so that's my thought.
Well, and what I have found is that even though those Ultras are good shoes, either that works for you or it doesn't, and there's really not much in between.
That's true. That's true.
So that's our thoughts on trail running shoes. That conversation with Crow from As the Crow Flies Hiking took place about 3 weeks ago while we were on a trip to Alabama's Sipsey Wilderness. And while we were there, I had a chance to put the new Hoka Speedgoat 4s to the test, and this is the pair of Altra Timp 1.5s that I have since retired. I want to make sure that about the Ultras that I'm very clear about this. there is nothing wrong with Altras. This is not an attempt to bash Altras and be down on them. Backpackers say this all the time about gear and whether it works for them or doesn't work for them. It's a personal thing, and that's the point about the Altras. In this case, that it was just a really personal thing. They didn't work for me in my anatomy. It's not to say that they're bad shoes. They're not. But I am going to have to retire those, and the Hoka Speedgoat 4s are now my new hiking shoe. While we were hiking in the Sipsey Wilderness, we hiked for about 30 miles over some varied terrain. We were on sandy soil, we were on rocky soil, a lot of things got soiled. And in addition to being on trail, we also had a lot of water crossings, which for a lot of the hiking I do, that's sort of important to know how the shoes are going to respond to water crossings, what that's going to be like, and how quickly they're going to dry out. And I'm happy to report that, fortunately, by the time we got back to camp, the shoes were not completely dry at all, but mostly dry. And when I sort of shut down for the night, I took the shoes, and I still have them laced up, took them and stretched them out and pulled the tongue up so that in the morning, after it had frozen, I could get my foot inside. Were they, at that point, were they completely dry? No, of course not. They didn't have a chance to get completely dry. But because they're trail runners, they got mostly dry. And I would say that with my experience with the Altra Timp 1.5s, the difference in them was minimal. I couldn't really detect any difference at all. In that 30 miles, the ride on these shoes was fantastic. I mentioned in that sort of initial assessment that there was a lot of cushion without the bouncy house feel, and that held up for the rest of that 30-mile trip. Now, I have some trips coming up soon, and maybe I can report back and give a better assessment, more of a long-term assessment instead of just one trip. But for right now, these Hoka Speedgoat 4s are exactly what I needed, because I realized pretty early on with the Altras and that zero drop that just was not going to work for me. But the Hokas, these Speedgoats, are super comfortable. It's got enough of a drop that it wears a little bit better for my anatomy, and finally with the amount of cushion that's on them, they're really just a super comfortable shoe. And at the end of the day, my feet are not just completely worn out. If you have any varying thoughts on trail runners, put them in the comments below.